Hey, welcome back, friends. Great to see you again. It's been a while, but this is Joseph MoJOE McCarthy with my good friends Kristen Brown and D. Grant Smith. And we have done a series of modern day alchemist episodes on the Fireside app. That was last fall, which was a blast and I thought very insightful and inspiring. And then took a break, and now we're back on, but trying a different platform. So for those who might be seeing this for the first time and you say, episode 9, what happened to episodes 1 through 8? Those are all on the Fireside app, for those who know what that is. So we're now live streaming, multicasting both on Facebook and on YouTube. And this is a bit of an experiment because we haven't used this particular platform together before. But regardless, as we talked about before we went live, we're here to have a great conversation between friends and talk about stuff that really matters, stuff that can move the needle in our lives and make a difference. So before we get into the meat of the content today, I'd love each of you to take a moment just to introduce yourselves, let people know who have never met you before, who you are, and a little bit about what you're up to these days. So Kristen, please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Kristen Brown. I am a relationship healing and self-worth recovery life coach, author, and speaker. And I have most recently written my second book, The Recovering People Pleaser, a spiritual guide to reclaiming your true worth and attracting the love you deserve. And that is due to be out probably in the next month or so. And I also just formulated a new opt-in on my website, which is 3 self-love meditations that I'm really super excited for people to download and to start practicing, to start healing themselves from the inside out.
Fantastic. Yeah, we've all been anticipating this book coming out. I know you've had lots of technical delays, but I got to applaud you for both your resilience and your patience with that process.
Thank
you don't seem to be stressing out about that, and that's a great sign of your own emotional well-being. So great to have you, Kristen.
All in divine order, always.
That's right. Great way to think about it. D. Grant, let people know a little bit about you and what you're up to now.
Well, before I really introduce myself, I just want to say I'm, like you, eagerly anticipating, looking forward to, and hungry for Kristen's book. I'm probably going to buy several copies, and it will be the biggest thing that I give away this year. Christmas presents, birthday presents, all that kind of stuff. I've got like a little short list of people that I know for sure will love it, and myself included. But yeah, all of us are just eagerly when is it gonna? It's like Christmas. Like, when is it gonna get
here? Love it. Absolutely.
Yeah, my name is D. Grant. I've had people say like, what do I call you, dude? It's simple. D. 4th letter of the alphabet. It stands for all kinds of things, including dynamic, determined, damn freaking awesome.
Yes. Absolutely.
I am, you can see, which one is it? Yeah, there we go. I'm this side. I'm the growth farmer for personal development through the lens of spirituality and storytelling. So I bring these two seemingly different things together, storytelling and spirituality, and bring it together in a way to help enliven and, like Joe said earlier, move the needle forward in our lives.
Right on. So good. All right. So for those who might want to tap into what else you have to offer, how do people find you? And we can talk about this again at the very end, but just right now, how do people connect with you outside of this particular broadcast?
Well, everything I'm doing right now is at my community site, which is growthfarming.com. It's a place where I share stories and also a place where I share teachings, and I'm growing a community of people that are very spiritually minded and also very focused on personal development and strengthening and healing relationships. So I just published a new story on Monday called The Harmony Ship, and suffice to say, it's kind of like a combination of Knight Rider from the 1980s, remember, with Michael Knight, David Hasselhoff talking to his watch, bulletproof car that travels at 200 miles an hour, meets
Kit.
Yes, Kit. Yeah. Meets right. Star Wars. So, and there's a lot of spiritual teachings and little nuggets of insight inside of all of that. But among all of that, it's also a really entertaining and thought-provoking story. So You can check it out by going to growthfarming.com.
All right. And Kristen, how do people connect with you outside of this particular platform?
You're muted. You're muted.
I lost your audio, Kristen.
Sorry, you guys.
There we
You
go.
can connect with me on my website at kristenbrown.org, or you can go to my YouTube channel, which is at Kristen Brown.
Right on. So
Easiest
we've
way.
covered. Yeah, that's absolutely great. So we've covered several different topics over the course of our Modern Day Alchemists episodes, as well as conversations we've had both on the Wisdom app, where we met each other, and in conversations offline, which has been incredibly enriching, more than I could express, to my own life and my own journey and development. So I love the fact that we have an opportunity to connect here and to share our different perspectives with anybody who might either tune in live or see this on the replay. And one of the concepts that I've been thinking about lately that I know you guys have so much to offer is this idea of how do we grow into this idea of learning to thrive and to grow and develop the things that we want, the characters inside of us that are really most important, regardless of the circumstances. Because I think it's so easy for many of us, I'll talk about for me, to be distracted and or think that my well-being, my happiness, my contentment or whatever is tied to being in a circumstance that I think would be ideal, that would be fun or lovely or happy or whatever that is. But the more I study and develop my own sense of self, my own spiritual well-being and personal wellness, it comes up over and over again. It just keeps being confirmed to me that much of that, those external things that we think are going to bring us joy or happiness or contentment or fulfillment, those are just distractions, right? They're false hopes, and then we may or may not even get those things to find out that didn't bring us what we were looking for anyway. But really, what we're longing for is how to thrive, how to be whole and healthy and happy regardless of the circumstances, so that no matter what life brings, good, bad, or otherwise, that is not the determinant factor as to how we are feeling about ourselves and about how we're developing, how we're growing. But really, it's that process of going inward and finding that all the things that we seek really are within. So I'll just use that to set that up and allow either one of you to jump in there and just to see where this conversation goes.
Dee, would you like to start?
I can. I'm old-fashioned. I was thinking ladies first, but I can fire away.
Either way.
Okay. Well, since you said so, this is actually something that I've been doing a lot of reflection on and actually a little bit of writing about. There's a thing you guys have both heard me talk about, Neville Goddard. He's probably one of the most influential teachers in my world. I continue to read his stuff and listen to his lectures and everything. But one of the big focal points in all of Neville's material is this idea of self-concept, who you believe yourself to be. Believe yourself to be on a conscious level, believe yourself to be on a subconscious level, what's deep inside based on your conditioning and your programming and your belief systems and other things that people have really just put on top of you. And I had this revelation of sorts that happened over the weekend, actually, where I woke up at midnight on Saturday with this suddenly I could see something that I hadn't seen before in a piece of classic literature. I think it was in the 1800s where the story or the book, The Count of Monte Cristo, was written. Have you guys read that or seen the movie?
Love the movie.
Yeah,
Love
absolutely.
it.
Okay, well, my revelation was the author illustrates the power of self-concept and how to develop that in a way that we can see. And when we watch the movie, we can see it even more clearly because Jim Caviezel has to go through this process. Now, here's what I'm talking about. Imagine for a moment being locked in a prison in this archaic place on this island, hundreds of miles away from everybody that you know, stripped away from your entire life, stripped away from any sort of semblance of wealth or success or happiness or peace or anything, and you're thrown into this essentially dungeon. And the only interaction that you have with any human being for about 2 or 3 years is the warden comes up to your prison cell, it beats the living crap out of you once a year, and then goes off. that is what I would imagine to be the epitome of absolute hell. Just absolute. So no matter how terrible at any point in time I could think my life has been or is, it doesn't compare to living in the Chateau d'If. So that's a metaphoric place of just recognizing the power of what it is that Edmond Dantes actually goes through. And he finally meets this old, I think he was a friar or something like that. His name is Abbe Faria. And Abbe Faria is a prisoner that's been there for a couple of decades, and like him, is incredibly lonely, but also is incredibly brilliant. And he knows of this map that if you follow the map, you'll find this incredible treasure and you'll never want for anything for the rest of your life. Now, here's the thing that really stood out to me. Abbe Faria, after having a conversation with Edmond Dantes, played by Jim Caviezel in the movie, he could say, hey, dude, I've got a map and I can show you how to get out of here and then you'll be wealthy. How does that sound to you? It sounds like winning the lottery, right? But here's the thing. Abbe Faria has an immense amount of compassion and love and wisdom. And so instead of just working with him to slowly dig this trench out of the prison and tell him how to get out and hand him this map, he does something different. He recognizes that Edmond Dantes has a really big, beautiful heart, but he's also incredibly naive. He's incredibly too trusting, and he gets too easily taken advantage of. So what's likely to happen? He gets this big dream come true thing. He finds this treasure map. He goes on this treasure hunt. He achieves endless amounts of wealth, and then he's still going to end up just as doomed and destined for failure as he is in prison. So what Abbe Faria does is he teaches Edmond Dantes how to become the Count of Monte Cristo long before he ever actually gets all those riches. And I recognize that that's essentially the same thing as what Neville Goddard has been teaching all of us for the past 100 years through his books and his lectures and everything else. We have to change our concept of ourselves, change what it is that we believe to be true, and live from that belief instead of just thinking of it. Because so often, myself included, will think about all the things that I want to experience in life, all the levels of success, all the accolades, all the happiness, all of that stuff. But when I'm thinking of it, I'm still keeping it at a distance from me. I'm not taking it on as my level of consciousness. So to become the Count of Monte Cristo, every single day, Edmund had to learn how to walk like a count. It's different than walking like a prisoner, certainly, and it's different than walking like a normal dude. He had to learn how to respond. He had to learn how to listen. He had to learn how to fence with swords and all that stuff. He had to become this other person while everything around him was the opposite of what it was that he wanted to experience. But until he took on that consciousness, it wasn't going to matter how much money and how much wealth and how much blessing and opportunity came into his life, or even whether or not he was free from prison, because he just ended up right back where he was. So this is something that I have been just like marinating in and really sinking deeper into. And I also want to thank my friend Kristen for helping me last week as I went through a very difficult day and sequence. One of the things that she helped me with, and another reason why I'm so like excited about her book, because she shared with me some things that are in it, is to help us get into the self-concept where we are the person we want to be. We've got to forgive ourselves for not being in that place already. We've got to forgive ourselves and love ourselves through all of the shame and all of the judgment and all of the bullshit that we've taken on and made a part of who we are. And this is an ongoing process. It's not just like a car wash where you go through and all the suds of forgiveness and non-judgment come on, and then you come out and you're fresh and you're sparkly clean, and now we never have to do anything like that crap again. No, it's an all day, every day. Well, maybe not all day, but it's a constant, ongoing process. It's the reason why Ho'oponopono was so powerful. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. It's on my coffee mug that also was given to me by my beautiful friend Kristen. So this is my not 2 cents. This is my $2.5 million response to your question there, Joe.
Wow, it's beautiful, and I love the synchronicity here that you were just writing about this and referring to that story days ago, and maybe in my subconscious mind that helped raise the topic that we're talking about today. But either way, I love that it's fresh, And as I was even contemplating what to call this particular talk today, I just realized how this is a pervasive theme for so many, whether they're in the self-help industry or they're in personal development or coaching or whatever. Even the highest paid gurus are talking about this is that same journey that we're all on, right? You don't, as you said, B. Grant, you don't master it and then walk away and move on to something else. This is a lifetime journey of uncovering and discovering who we are, how we were made, what do we believe about ourselves. And then, as I heard Jay Shetty tell Brenda Burchard in an interview the other day, there's that level of what do I believe about me, and then I also get influenced on what do I think you believe about me, and that changes how I feel about myself. When I may not have a clue what you think about me, but it's all of those dynamics, that are going on that are so important for us to be aware of, right? Because you can't change anything without awareness. And then what can we do, right? What steps do we take? So, Kristen, jump in there and see where this conversation goes from here.
Well, as always, you guys just, make me so honored and proud to be your friend, because I could just I'm just sitting here like, yeah, like we're sitting on a sofa together, enjoying each other's company. And you guys just really know how to bring it. So I'm going to piggyback on first what Dee was saying when he was talking about the Count of Monte Cristo, when his world was crashing down around him, literally. I mean, like he was saying, there couldn't be a worse hell. I mean, there can be, but you get what I'm saying. But through my personal experiences, what I learned is that those adversities, those struggles, those times are really a call for me to grow. They're a call for me to heal. They're designed to teach me something. And the more that I show up with wonder and curiosity to what this thing is about and what I can learn that will essentially return me back to peace. But when it returns me back to peace, it also becomes part of my wisdom mindset and the way I start to see the world. So it will change my filter of the way I start to see the world organically. Because if Edmond Dantes was sitting on a lounge chair, sipping wine and grapes, he would not have had the character development that he had. And it is through these adversity times where it appears like we're going to die. It appears like it can't get any worse than it is. If we really just stop for a minute and really get out of what we are perceiving to be true and what this is all about, and really open up our mind to a whole completely different concept of what is this about? What could this be teaching me, instead of all the judgments that we're throwing on this thing that should not be happening. And every time in my life that I've done that myself, where I'm like, okay, what is this teaching me? And I have to always say this, that many of those times my initial reaction is to blame. It's to point the finger and saying, well, if they weren't doing this and if that thing happened better, and if so-and-so this, anytime that I notice that I'm pointing out here, that's my indicator now at this age that I'm like, all right, I'm focusing in the wrong area. I'm putting responsibility in the wrong area. I am in this. What can I do to shift, heal, grow, evolve myself, regardless of what is happening in my external environment? And each time that I've done that, some massive awakening, epiphany, mindset shift has occurred that has, like I mentioned, not only brought me peace, but changed the way that I started to think and view life from a more empowered perspective.
Man, that's so fantastic. Well put, well articulated. You both are so articulate in your thoughts and how you express it, and very personal. So I know that this is not just theory for both of you, but this is practice that you've both gone through, as have I, right? And one of the mindset shifts I've heard come up in several discussions lately is we often can fall into the trap of evaluating moments or circumstance as a win-lose proposition. And so I've heard it proposed, what if we change that? What if we call it's either win or learn, not win or lose? Because as Kristen was just talking about, in some of the most difficult situations, in the most pain, the most challenges, that's when we get the opportunity, right, to find out what we're made of. This is where we can learn either what to stop doing because that's no longer productive, or what to start doing, or to try something different. So rather than evaluating a circumstance or an event or whatever we go through as a win-lose proposition, or a relationship, right, for that matter, See it is, it's not winning or losing, it's winning or learning, and learning is winning. So really, it comes into a win-win proposition if you're winning or learning. What do you guys think about that idea?
I was just gonna say you're a both and dude, so for you to throw or in there is a little bit, off the beaten path for you, bud.
True. Good point. Winning and learning. I love that. Good observation. Yeah, both are available, but I think once once I get stuck in this mode that it's good or bad, it's winning or losing, and I don't see that it can both be winning and learning, right? I think that's both and that rather than categorizing something as bad or as a setback or undesirable, asking those questions: what can I learn? How can I grow? And if it's a win and learn proposition, it's a win-win on both sides, because either way, I can propel myself and put myself in a position where I believe, right, that I can learn and grow even in the circumstances that I didn't necessarily ask for or that I think are ideal.
Well, that's the key right there. That we think are ideal,
Yes.
because if
Right.
we thought it was ideal, where is the challenge? Where is the growth? Like nothing's going to come from that, because that's why we talk about this a lot, you guys, that we need the dark for the light. We need the hot for the cold, right? We need to understand the polarities in order to know that there's something in that for us. If everything was just peaches all the time. So yeah, when things are not ideal for me, it's almost become laughable these days, like when something's going really wrong. And it's like I've learned that I just can't control any of this. So if I just sit back and I choose a perception that is going to bring me peace, and I let go and allow God, universe, source, to carry me, and I open my mind to new perceptions and thoughts and ideas, when I open my mind to those new things, then that's being part of the flow. I just kind of flow through the river rather than kicking and screaming because the situation's not ideal.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I love one of the things that you've shared with us, Kristen, too, about in your prayers for what it is that you want, right? That your prayer is this or something better. And now I've
Oh,
heard that come up
yes.
in other discussions as well. And one of the things I really love about that is that's also a sense, not of hope, but also a sense of humility to say, well, I can think of what I think is an ideal situation, but I only have one guy, right? I only have one limited perception on the world. But if I'm praying, if I'm reaching out to my higher power, to God, the universe, the divine, then what I'm saying is I'm going to tap into, the universal mind, to the God who knows everything, and admit, right from the very beginning, okay, I have a request, I have a desire, but that may or may not be what's best for me or for my family or for the circumstance. And so I love that perception that you bring, and that contribution that you brought to my prayers, Christian, that this is what I'm hoping for, it's what I'm praying for, or something better, and then releasing the outcomes to one who knows better than I ever could.
I just want to piggyback on that real quick. I love that you brought up humility, that humility is part of this process, because it's not that I cultivated humility one day and said, I need to be humble. It was
Right.
that I was humbled, or I showed up to being humble by understanding this and this particular thing, this or something better, is that I started to understand that my little humanness, my teeny tiny human brain is but a speck of dust in the universal intelligence. So I can't possibly know all the options. I can't possibly know everything. And A Course in Miracles says, for every problem, there is a spiritual answer. But again, if we're functioning in this little teeny tiny constricted, I know, my brain knows, I know that I don't know. I literally know that I don't know, because so many times I've been shown a different perspective that I was like, did not know that. And so that brought me to a space of neutrality. I don't even know what to call it, just a space of humility, neutrality, where I was like, I really don't know. And sitting back in that really don't know can be one of the most empowering things we can ever do, because we are letting go, letting God, instead of trying to control based on our minuscule understanding of things.
Yes, absolutely. And I've heard it. There's a song that came out many years ago about thanking God for unanswered prayers, right? Where the things that I thought was going to be best for me, I didn't receive. And it turns out, in hindsight, looking back, had I received exactly what it is I was asking for, seeking for, praying for, it would have been much less than I actually received. So I love that humility and that perspective to say that I don't know. Here's what I want. Here's what I desire. Here's what I think is good. But I am submitting, right, to a higher authority, to a better perspective, and then looking back and being able to say, very honestly, boy, I'm sure glad I didn't get what I asked for back then.
Every time. Is it not every time for you guys? I know it's been for me. I look back and here's another thing that's interesting is Mike Dooley always says that. He says we can't see the miracles until later. So as we're being redirected through life, as we're thinking we're not getting there or we're not having the dream, but we're following those divine inspirations and we're just being led. He calls this like GPS. You know, you want to go to this destination, but what happens? It goes turn left here, turn right, make a U-turn. When all those things are happening, we're like, what the heck? I'm not going north, right? But if we can just sit back and allow it to guide us, once we're at the destination, we're going to go, I see why I was guided around that or detoured from that or whatever it might be. And every time it's just been like, thank you, because what I thought was good for me would have been probably more of the same suffering that I had before.
Yeah. So we've touched on awareness and humility, and you just touched on thank you, right? Gratitude. And I think gratitude, for me anyway, plays such an important role in this whole discussion about finding a way to be content, to thrive, purpose in any circumstance, is changing my my focus on not what I don't have or not what I think I want or need, but really on being grateful for what I do have, not only the things that I have, but being grateful for who I am. And so I know that Dee Grant talks a lot about this relationship, that this growth farmer mentality. There's something that we cultivate. So I'd love to hear you, Dee Grant, talk about how does gratitude, in your perception, play a role in finding contentment, not complacency, but finding contentment and joy in the circumstances that we wouldn't necessarily call necessarily fun or good or happy?
Well, great question. And taking just a little kind of piggyback off of a little of what Kristen just shared, I've shifted my perspective from experiencing the opposite of what it is that I want. We can call that contrast. I used to, when I would go through difficult times, challenges, all kinds of stuff, I would beat myself up and also be really pissed off at God, because if you love me, why are you making me do this shit? Why are all these, I've been so good to these people and they're treating me like garbage. What the crap? And I would stay in that place. And then of course, did the junk go away? But after a long period of time, it wasn't, and I didn't feel good in that process. But here's the thing that I'm coming to understand more and more and more. Kristen mentioned divine consciousness, the infinite mind, the one mind, divine love. That is a consciousness that is communicating to us all the time. And the ways that our existence actually operates, whatever is going, this is why self-concept is such a big deal. Because you've got to have it up here and in here before it happens out here. That's actually what creates the whole thing in the first place. So I'm learning that when I experience contrast, it's a wayfinder. It's like a little flash warning that's like, hey man, there's some crap that's going on inside of you. The stuff you're seeing out here is a mirrored reflection of it. If I go stand in front of a mirror and I don't like what I see in the mirror, breaking the mirror doesn't change anything. Mm-hmm. So trying to change the outside world, trying to control other people, trying to make other things happen through my own volition and my own power is a futile act. And even if I get a short win, it's not going to last very long, and I'm going to end back up in my own prison. Again, Count of Monte Cristo, Edmond Dantes. So, experiencing contrast, I'm going within and saying, okay, God, higher self, spirit, what is this reflecting back to me? And even if I can't understand it on an intellectual level, again, I've been given the beautiful gift of Ho'oponopono. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I take responsibility for whatever the hell it is that's going on inside of me that I can't see, that's outside of my awareness, that's maybe going on in my subconscious mind, that's maybe something that I was conditioned to operate in or be in, or it's some sort of energy funk that's just taking place and I don't know what it is. I don't have to know. Thank God that the divine does. But I'm taking responsibility for it. Please clear it out of me. And instead replace it with love and joy and peace and happiness and prosperity and abundance. Thank you. I love you. The thank you part of that is the gratitude part. It's cool and it's interesting to me, at least, that it's not just a 3-pronged setup, because usually we think of things, 3 is a perfect number. I doesn't go, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And also a part of the whole gratitude thing, and this is something else that I'm getting revelations of all the time. How do preachers, and I'm not trying to be anti-religious here, I know sometimes I say things that can seem that way, but how do preachers and church people tell us that we're supposed to pray? We're supposed to sit down, bow our heads, close our eyes, and ask God to give us stuff. And then we get stuff if we're good enough for it. Well, that's bullshit. And it's super codependent. The way Jesus actually taught us how to pray is when you go to God, thank him for giving you what you've already asked for and it will be done. Now, if that's not living from the end and operating from a different level of consciousness where I'm making my request known, but I'm feeling as though I've already received it, because in the end, whatever the thing is, whether it's a relationship or money or a new car or a new house or a new job or whatever, it's not the thing that we actually want. It's the feeling that's underneath the thing, the feeling behind the feeling. So it's up. Let me feel what it feels like for that to already be done before it's ever here. Let me become the Count of Monte Cristo before I ever break out of prison. And in that feeling place, oh, it's already here. Thank you. What I really wanted was the feeling. Thank you for giving that to me. And now I'm living as though it's already here. And so I feel like the gratitude part is so essential because it's the recognition of what it is that we actually want. In a way, we're thanking our inner self for giving us the capacity to feel what it is that we want to feel. And so then when we experience the 3-dimensional manifestation of it, or whatever terminology you want to use for it, we have the capacity to appreciate in so much a bigger place because we recognize, hey, I did this work on the inside of me. I'm not pushing away blessings. I'm not withholding from myself. This was an act of self-love, and now I get to experience it, and it's so beautiful. Thank you.
Amen. Can I join in that?
Please do.
The one thing that I've determined about the law of attraction and asking for things that we want is that I actually changed the terminology of the law of attraction because it says, I mean, who am I, right, to do this? But this works for me. That law of attraction is saying that we're going to attract things to us. But I've changed it to the law of divine alignment in my own head. Because what it is for me is that I'm not calling things to me. I'm not attracting things to me. What I'm doing is I'm aligning with the receiving of the thing. Because the universe is abundant. It's all there for us. Everything. It's like the most biggest box, department store ever. It has everything we could ever possibly want. But if we don't feel worthy of having it, it's not going to come. So I believe that we have these desires to experience things, but what there really are is they are designed to have us return back to our unconditional love of self that we came here with, that we fractured away from when we had the traumas and the dramas and the wounding of our childhood. We fractured away from that. So it's going back to that. So these desires that we have are a call for our internal healing, because I know if I wanted to call in something that I really way back here didn't feel that I was deserving of, then I can't even find that feeling to connect with. So that's going to require me to heal something inside of myself. So when I can feel that, I'm like, okay. It's also designed to, I talk about returning to the unconditional love of self, but it's also to eradicate fear. Because if we have a fear about, sometimes we have fears about things that what we desire. So let's say someone desires, I don't know. I don't even know. Just something, let's say they want to be a famous actor or something like that. And they just like, I really want to act, and they feel it in their soul, and they feel it in their spirit. But this thing is not coming in repeatedly because maybe they had this hidden thing of, I really don't want to lose my privacy. So they're out of alignment with this thing. So the key is, do I really want that desire, or can I somehow handle my privacy? What was
Sorry.
that?
Truck drive by.
Either it was someone had gas or it was a lawnmower. I wasn't sure what was going on.
All right. Yeah, a little of each, both end.
I love it. So to me, it's like when I have a dream or I have a desire and it's not coming to me, I say, okay, what do I need to heal inside of myself so that I can attach to this thing? Because I really would like to have that experience. But then I also ask myself, what am I fearing? Is there something I'm afraid of? Just recently, I don't know if you guys know this, but I committed, this is funny. You guys are going to laugh. I committed to owning that I'm a public speaker. I think I did tell you guys. But this was a big deal. And people didn't really understand it. They're like, of course you're a public speaker. And they want it. I'm like, no. I had such a massive fear of public speaking to actually, in my own brain, in my own psyche, to own speaker. My brain went immediately to, I'm going to have to stand on a stage of 5,000 people in the audience. And my brain said no. So here I am on stages like this, on platforms, doing live talks, public speaking, but I wouldn't own that I was a public speaker because my brain had this fear. So this little fear was so hidden back in here with me that it was stopping me from doing things. It was just kind of stopping me from aligning truly to my dreams because it was this hidden niggle back here. So when I finally said, I'm already a public speaker, I haven't had to get on a stage, with 5,000 people live in the audience, which by the way, I could probably roll, but I had to do that brain work first. And then it was like this confidence, this peace came, but I had to look at why. What is stopping me? Because I could feel resistance, even though my business was moving, I could just feel this like brick wall kind of feeling. So I had to get into the why. And that's what I discovered. So I said, okay, I'm owning public speaking. I'm already doing it. Here's how. So you guys get what I'm saying? It seemed confusing to people because they're like, you're already doing this. But I'm like, in my brain, I wasn't. Yeah, fascinating. I mean, that's so excited I get because this is how cool it is when we uncover this stuff inside of ourselves. If we just have the wherewithal and the courage to look within and say, what is scaring me? Because I will tell you this, a lot of people do not, and I'm sorry guys, but a lot of males don't want to answer the question, what am I afraid of? Because they're not allowed to be afraid. So when I'm coaching males, I often can't use those words. But if anybody just says, what am I afraid of right now? We got this ego that's full of fear. That's what it's doing, is scaring us all the time. So if we can say, take our maleness out of it or our femaleness out of it and just look at it as a part of our psyche designed to make us scared. And we ask ourselves, what am I afraid of? Man, the gold nuggets that are in that answer, that honest answer of self, which by the way, if someone is, doesn't want to share that with other people, it's never necessary to share it with other people. It's only necessary to be honest with yourself.
Absolutely. So good. There's so many good things that you just shared, that you both shared. But one of the things that's brought up in me is the if-then equation that many of us live in, or I'll talk again about myself, that I can easily have in my brain, in my heart, that if this happens, if this lines up, if I accomplish this, if I get this, all these type of things, then I'll be content, then I'll be happy, then I'll be complete, then I'll be whole, all those type of things, or then I won't be afraid even, right? And it's that false narrative, that false promise that if something out there changes, then I change. But I heard this bumper sticker a long time ago that always makes me laugh. It says, no matter where you go, there you are.
Yep,
Right?
there's a
So
book.
yeah, there you are. So all the circumstances in the world may change, but as you both have highlighted so eloquently, that doesn't mean that I feel any differently about me. So you both have talked about um, the work that really changes how we experience the world is that self-concept, that self-love of understanding who I am and the capabilities that I have. And I was even thinking this morning when I got up this morning that oftentimes we seek love, joy, peace, goodness, that kind of stuff, but we're seeking it out there somewhere. If I go get it, or if it comes to me, because it's that if-then equation. When even in the Bible, those particular things which are so attractive and so fulfilling, they're called fruit, right? Fruit of the Spirit, fruit that comes out of us. So really, it's a call to growth, to cultivation, to find the seeds of those things that we think are going to fulfill us out there, to return again to who we are, who we were made to be, and that connection that we have with Spirit, so that if we're going to bear that fruit, we don't go get it, we don't go buy it, we don't shop for it, we don't bring it in and say, okay, now I've got joy, love, peace, patience. No, that's something that grows from within, and then we produce that fruit. Which the cool thing about that is, then it's something that we can share, we can give away, rather than always trying to find out, what do I need, what do I have to get in order to be happy, fulfilled, at peace, feel purposeful. To realize those things are things that grow from within. I can bring joy to the situation, to the relationship. I can bring love and peace and patience and understanding and self-control and all those things, because it's a fruit of the Spirit. It's not something that I go get. It's something that I cultivate and grow from within. D. Grant, jump in.
Well, because you're talking about growth and fruits and stuff.
Because I'm talking about fruits, yeah.
It's your turn, bro.
Oh, my turn. No, this everything we're talking about is actually something that's, yes, it is about going through difficult times, and it is about, harmonizing with God. It's also about what is it that we really believe to be true about ourselves. And part of this growth process, my metaphor is, the more that I sow and the more that I plant and the more that I cultivate love inside my heart and inside my mind. I spent a long time just putting it in my heart, but not really working on my mind. And I would tell myself, all these people that are talking about mindset, they need to get over themselves. No, dude, it's a harmonization. It's not one or the other. It's a both.
There you go. Both and.
But at the same time, there's a whole lot of stuff in the mindset side of personal growth that doesn't talk about the heart. And again, I think there's so many, information is infinite, and especially now, like right here, we're on StreamYard. Let's go back in time, even just like 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. The idea of every single human being that has access to one of these little guys is now a TV show host was nuts. We'd be like, I know I can like actually call people without long distance anymore. Now I realize that was a crock of shit for a long time, but people made money off of it. I can call people from anywhere in the world, but I can't have my own TV show. Yes, you can. Here's something that I was thinking of when we first came on a few minutes ago. This idea that people that do media programs, or people that have shows, or people that, you mentioned, Kristen, you haven't stepped on stage in front of 5,000 people yet. This idea that like the mass audience of an individual is the thing that gives them the notoriety and the qualifications to be able to share something that is life-changing, brilliant, and transformational. It's absolute rubbish. Because each and every one of us has a heart of gold and infinite wisdom that is already embedded inside of us. And every day we're digging a little bit deeper inside the trenches and uncovering more and going, oh my God, I haven't seen this before. I've got to tell everybody in the world about it. And it's coming from an ordinary, regular homeboy named D. Grant. Now, whether or not somebody else perceives me to be something other than that, and I perceive myself to be different, doesn't really matter. in the end, because there's still value here. I don't have to be Steve Harvey to have Steve Harvey moments. I don't have to be Tony Robbins to share wisdom. It's not a matter of whether or not there's 800 million people in the world that know my name. Who gives a shit about that? Here's something I learned when I was in radio, and I was thinking about this too when you were talking about fruit. There's this beautiful lady named Valerie Geller, and she wrote this book called the Power of, I think it's called The Power of Radio. I probably should know the name of the book, but it's been like 20 years since I've read it. But she in her whole book, she has all kinds of beautiful things for people that do radio and also people that do media like us. And I'll find the name of that book and I'll send you guys the name of it. But the number one big key takeaway that I took from her book and from the talk that I got to witness her teach at one of these conferences, she said, no matter what it is you're doing, no matter how big your audience is, no matter how big your show is or how many listeners you have to your station, none of that stuff matters. Guess what? When you go on the radio, you're talking to one person. Why is that? Because if I have in my mind, in my consciousness, that I'm giving a speech and I'm talking to 5,000 people, Kristen, or I'm talking to 500 million people online or whatever, and I get all in this ego place of like, there's all these people that I'm now leading. I miss out on the opportunity to make a one-to-one connection, and that's the thing that actually matters. When I speak to one person, my vocal tone changes, my presentation changes, my connection level changes, and the way that I communicate what it is that I want to say changes, because I'm not trying to reach a whole bunch of people. I want one person, the one person I'm speaking to get this. And it gets received as though you're talking directly to that person, which is a massive, amazing, beautiful, vibrant, abundant fruit and harvest. Because not only is the one person that you think you're talking to actually receiving this, but every single person that hears it or witnesses it or experiences it feels like you're talking just to them. And it does this different thing in here and in here that makes a connection with that material. And now suddenly this isn't just some cool little speech that I saw this really great YouTube video on, and then I went on to the next video and went on to the next video and went on to the next video in an information overload high. No, I got to press pause now after hearing this and really do the thing. Go within myself and have these conversations and look at myself differently and take action. And that's really where the magic is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've shared this a lot in our conversations and others, that one of the phrases that I picked up from Robin Sharma is that information without implementation is delusion, right? There's that, again, it's that both and equation that in this day and age of the internet and YouTube, and we have access for free to endless information, as you said, D. Grant, but information doesn't change people. It's the information plus emotion, right? You get the information, the emotion, the desire to make a change. And I've heard many teachers say, there's usually two key emotional moments that really can transform somebody out of what they've already become or the complacency of who they are. One is it's extreme pain where they don't want to feel that pain anymore, and so they'll be moved to make a change. Yep. But one can be the other is inspiration. If you are stirred not just by the information, but by the inspiration and the emotion that's going on inside of you, and the connection from something that suddenly it just makes sense, and I am making a change, and then that can stir up enough energy, right? Enough momentum to make a change in our habits, in our mindset, in the things that we always do, so we always get the same old thing. That old definition of insanity comes up right here. We keep doing the same thing, expecting different results, but it's in doing something different based on the inspirational information, or the fact that I don't want to keep getting the same old results that are not good for me. They're not good for my family. They're not good for my relationships. And so either or both and, we have an opportunity to apply that inspiration and the motivation to make a change to good information, because we can apply it to bad information and get really bad results. I've done that many times myself, right? But that combination of being stirred to change and applying good information, then we're tying right back into that we have within us an opportunity to make the future different by taking action on the inspiration that comes one way or the other.
Wow, I
Big
love
shout out
that.
to Rodney for
Yeah.
I'm sorry, say again?
Rodney's here, so big shout out to him.
All right,
Rodney.
Rodney, thanks for joining us. Rodney,
Yeah.
brother.
We can't really tell. Can you tell on your end if there's people in the room?
Let's see. I'm looking here. We've
'Cause I
got,
can't tell.
it comes and goes. It says we have 0 viewers now, but I'm not, since I'm on my mobile device, I think my counter is skewed because I know we're streaming in a couple different places. But for anybody who is or has tuned in, thank you so much for joining us. And you can post comments either on Facebook or YouTube that we will be able to read, and sometimes we can bring those up on screen. So I forgot to mention that earlier in the broadcast, but for those who are still here, great.
Awesome.
Okay, we got just a few minutes, and I always love, and I think this is a great segue, I always love the opportunity to share a small, simple step, a sustainable step of people who've tuned in and said, you know what, I am ready for change. I do want to do something different based on what you're saying so that I can get better results and different results, make a change, become more of who I'm intended to be. And we touched on gratitude, which is transformational as I've experienced. But for the two of you, and those last few minutes that we have, is there something that you can share, a very practical step that you have found personally has made a difference in your growth, in your personal development, in understanding, the potential that you have, and be able to get out of those old patterns of thinking that something out there is going to make my life better, when really it is the transformation that's going on within me that makes all the difference. So we'll go to Kristen first here.
Okay, I would say the biggest thing, not the biggest thing, there were so many things that I have done and continue to do, but one of the things that made the biggest change for me was when I started to look at my projections, when I started to see where I was judging other people. And I know that to be, from what I had learned, that was my shadow, because what I'm seeing in other people, what I'm judging in other people, this is not observing, because there's a different energy between observing something and in judging. Because I can observe someone's being jealous, or I could judge it and say, oh, that person, look how jealous they are. Like, if there's judgmental energy attached to it, that's an indicator that that thing is inside of me. So I would go within and I would say, I'm judging this individual for X, whatever that X might be. And I'm going to see if that's inside of me. And again, this is that radical self-honesty. If I noticed it inside of myself, I'm like, okay, thank you, mirror. Thank you, person, to mirror that back to me. And so then I knew that's the work that I had to work on myself. What came from the other side of that was when I started to love and accept these disowned parts of myself, these shadow parts of myself. What happened is, number one, I stopped judging other people. Like, it just naturally, because those judgments, now they were seen and healed, they fell away, and they may have become an observation if I even noticed. But what also happened is I stopped taking things personally, because the judgments that I had within me, when somebody said something else, they would touch my judgment of me. And that's when I would take it personally or get my feelings hurt or do whatever I would do. So when I stopped doing this, what I noticed is that I hardly ever get my feelings hurt. Like, it's rare. And if I do, it's very short-lived, and it usually goes away fairly quickly, because I realize I have a judgment or an expectation or something wrapped up in this thing. So the quick answer would be is I would start to observe where you are judging other people, and just ask yourself, where can I find that inside of me? And once you find that thing, give love to that area, give love to the age you were at the time that belief came into being, and watch how it fades away. What'll happen is that you will be easier going, you will have less expectations of other people, and you will stop taking things personally.
Excellent. T. Grant, how about you?
I think it's my nugget of one step is very similar, and I think in alignment with what Kristen was just sharing, because a lot of this has to do with, like, the way that we see ourselves. And so whether we're aware of it or not, our judgments of other people are actually a reflection of the judgments that we have against ourselves. And also, oftentimes, some of those conversations or interactions with people that lead to the judgment stuff is things that we've already imagined could happen in our minds. And I used to be slash still working through guilty of this thing. When I was back years ago, I used to coach musicians and how to build their audience and how to connect with media and do all these different things. But I had a very, very low self-concept, tons of insecurities, tons of fear, lots of lack and limitation consciousness and all this kind of stuff. And so when I would be preparing to have a call with somebody to talk to them about coaching them potentially, in my head, the automatic response was, and I was so afraid of it, of getting to the talk about like, this is how much it's going to cost. And I would avoid it because in my head, the automatic response was, I can't afford that. And I was dirt cheap. I was like the cheapest coach in the freaking world. But my default consciousness was, I can't afford that. And so I would tell myself that over and over again. And I would have those imaginary conversations with people. Well, guess what? When I'd have the actual sales call, they said exactly what I had programmed them to say in my mind without actually having the conversation yet. So here's what I do and have done to make this shift and continue to do. I am very aware of what are my inner conversations. What are the imaginary conversations that I'm having in my mind with other people? And what are the conversations I'm having with myself about the way things are? I'm asking myself more honest questions. I'm listening to the inner me, hear what it is that he has had to say this entire time that I have shut him up because I wanted to find the answer out there somewhere. If I could find the magical blah, 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 everything will be okay. Shut up, dude. Listen to yourself. So have imaginary conversations. Imagine people telling you what it is that you want to hear, but congratulating you on the success that you want to experience. And see them in your mind's eye, their face, imagine their voice, and imagine their joy and their excitement for you. And have those kinds of conversations. Because our imagination is creative. Not only in being able to write songs and write stories and make paintings and all that stuff, but we actually create things by sending energy out. And then when you feel it and you pair those two things together, the mind is sending out an energy field. The heart sends out an energy field that's 5,000 times as powerful. And when you bring those two things together, you are attracting everything that you want into your life. And also, unbeknownst to your conscious mind, you're actually shedding all the bullshit that you've been holding on to for so long. It's keeping you from having what you want. So, yes, get away from practicing judgment. Get totally into the practice of grace and change the way you talk to yourself and the imaginary conversations that you have, and then watch how quickly your life transforms.
Absolutely. Very good. Well put. Yeah, when I was listening to Tony Robbins recently and his Unshakable Challenge, he talked about those three changes of change, the three stages of change, with all three S's. First is the state. A lot of times we start with strategy. We think if we can figure out how to do it and we just go there, then we'll make a change, but that's rarely sustainable. So before we ever get to strategy, we got to figure out our state. That's the emotion, right? That's what's going on inside of us. How do we feel about it? How do we feel about ourselves? Applying gratitude and grace puts us in a good state, right? And then the story, we talked about that too, the story that we tell ourselves either inside of our head or through our mouth, being aware of both of those and then making conscious decisions to change the way we talk about ourselves, the story that we're telling ourselves about ourselves. So by having a different state and a different story, then we can apply a strategy which would be much more effective in making whatever change we have.
Love that.
I think that's very effective to think about in those. So we're down to just a minute or so, but I'm so grateful to have this conversation. Thank you, Rodney, for joining us. And before we sign out, again, let the audience know, Kristen and D. Grant, how can people connect with you once they've seen this video and they want to hear more?
Okay, you can connect with me on my website, which is kristenbrown.org, spelled like it is here on the screen with an en.org. Or you can find me on YouTube, where I spend a lot of time, and that's at Kristen Brown, or Instagram, which is at self-love junkie. But here's how it goes: self_love_junkie with an IE.
Right on. D. Grant, how can people connect with you?
I'm at D Grant Smith everywhere. So go somewhere and type that in, you'll find me. And go to growthfarming.com. I've got some great ebooks that are totally for free that will help you build and grow the stuff that we've been talking about today, and bringing these two worlds together, our personal growth and our spirituality, into the same thing, and growing the tree of life from within us. And it be a fun and enjoyable process.
Exactly. Fun is such a key to that. That's part of the state. If you can't enjoy it, then you probably won't sustain it either, right? So you can find me at mojoe.studio. That's MOJOE.studio, STUDIO. There's lots of links there to gear and to other platforms where I am on. And I did want to say at the very end here, circle back to humility, that on behalf of Kristen and D. Grant and I, none of us have arrived. We're not like the pillar of the mountain telling you how to climb up. We're just inviting you along this journey, saying, hey, this is an infinite climb. Here's what we've learned on the way. And if that is helpful to you, then that's actually fulfilling and purposeful to us, that we can take whatever truth, whatever lessons, whatever growth has happened inside of us and offer that as a gift and say, hey, what do you think? And apply this and see if it works for you. And I think that's that invitation even to play, D. Grant, is that if we can see this as an opportunity to try something, if it works, great. If it doesn't, try something else. Gamify this progress, then it doesn't become so oppressive, like, oh, I have to change and I got to do this, and it's such a struggle, because again, that state will certainly not carry us through making changes to our story and then to our strategy. So again, on behalf of Kristen Brown and D. Grant Smith, I'm MoJOE, and I thank you so much for tuning in. I thank you both for an opportunity to share life. Love you both.
Love you, brothers. Love you. Thank you. Love you, Rodney. Bye, you guys.
Peace out. Bye-bye.
Peace.